Hi again, everyone. Welcome to our next physiology lab, which what we're going to do is a procedure designed to estimate nerve velocity. The long distance signaling of neuronal function is very, very rapid in myelinated neurons, and we can estimate it by initiating a signal somewhere and then measuring the response. This procedure today is very, very similar to what we would call TENS, which is trans-epidermal neuromuscular stimulation, which if any of you have undergone physical therapy or in some cases other types of therapy, you might be familiar with the TENS unit, where you have a unit, and I'm missing the wires here, and that's a little frustrating. But in any case, we hook the wires up and then you can stimulate your muscles. And so this is very good for people with injuries or people with pain. TENS units are a staple of physical and occupational therapy and in medical care as well, if you're going to medical school or something like that. In any case, we're going to be using that phenomenon to estimate nerve velocity. It's a little more complicated setup. A couple of things, though, I'd like to remind you about. First of all, make sure your unit is turned off when you're done. You'll see that the light is turned off. Make sure that you turn it off after you're done with your session. The second thing I'd like you to do is make sure that you have unplugged the USB. So the most common things that I saw this past week were you left the units on and you left the units plugged in. Okay? Just out of superstition, I would like you to make sure that you turn the unit off and unplug it so that when the next person comes in, they won't have any issues. It's also more complicated in that we're going to be using the ECG apparatus. We're going to use that to detect the response, and you have a red, a green, and a black wire for that. And then we have the stimulators. This is actually the TENS side of the equation, the stimulators, red and black. So don't get these confused, okay? You have a red and black set coming out of one area of the box, and you have a red, black, and green coming out of another area. This is also very, very, very sensitive to electronics. So make sure you take off all your jewelry, make sure you take off your eye watches, make sure you put your cell phones very, very far away because this is sensitive and it will pick up the electromagnetic radiation. So what we're going to do, just like before, we're going to log in, make sure you're fully logged in. We're going to plug the USB port in. We're going to turn on the iXTA. See the green lights on there? And then we're going to load the LabScribe software. I happen to have the icon here, but again, you can go to the Finder. When you go to the Finder, you look under, and I get it in focus here. Sorry, it's not in focus. There we go. We'll go to Applications, and we should get a list there, and LabScribe just happens to be at the top here. We can double-click that. Okay, and it should say, like here, it's hidden. You should see that message. It says it's found. When you've had it turned on and plugged in properly, that's what you're going to see. So we'll click OK. Then we're going to do our settings again. So we're going to go to Settings, Load Group, and you're going to go all the way over here to Complete Settings, double-click, and then find the scary named file down here somewhere. This one right here, this IPM6 Complete. And you're going to click Open. All right, that's step one. And then Settings, we're going to go to Human Nerve, and we're going to choose Human Nerve. We're going to go to Median Nerve Velocity. Okay, and here's the setup. It might be a good idea to take a look at this. I'll try to include some photos, and it's in your handout. You're going to have your red, black, and green on your hand, and you're going to have two sets of these larger electrodes. One and again, look at the instructions in the lab handout. It's really important to place those properly just beyond the crease of the wrist and just beyond the crease of your elbow. So you're going to have two locations All right, you're going to have 2 locations. We're also going to have a ruler here so that you can measure those distances. What you'll do is between these 2 to the middle, just approximate. It doesn't have to be perfect. Same thing here. So you're going to have 2 distances that you record. One from here to here, and one from here to here. We're going to take two measurements. Actually, it's going to be several measurements. You're going to take like 3 or 4 measurements from here and average that. 3 or 4 measurements from here, average that. Okay, that's how we're going to set it up. But we're not going to do it exactly like this. I notice you see how those electrodes look by the hand there. Instead of using scissors to cut them, what we're going to do is we're going to use the smaller ones. So we have smaller ones. Those are for your hand, and larger ones. Those are for your arm. I would recommend that you don't do this. What I mean to say is, you notice how they have the electrodes on the skin right here, but there's nothing hooked up to them? I wouldn't do that. What I would do is put the electrode on the wire first, like say we're gonna measure one of these here. We're going to put it on the wire first, nice firm snap there, and then put it on the patient. Okay, the electrodes require a little bit of force to snap these things on, and it can be a little tough when you're pushing against squishy skin, if you know what I mean. Okay, so put the wires on the electrodes first, and then put the electrodes on the skin. You'll also have here on the table a little piece of sandpaper. That sandpaper is designed for you, sorry about the camera there, is designed for you to abrade the skin, and I can't really do this with one hand here, but you're going to use that sandpaper, and you don't have to rough it up too much, just a little bit, then hit it with an alcohol prep. It'll burn a little bit, hopefully not too much, okay? That'll give you a better contact and better readings through your skin. So just a little bit of abrasion with the sandpaper. Make sure it's nice and clean with the alcohol prep. You can do the alcohol prep first if you want, that's fine. In any case, I would put the wires on and then do, like say, this one. And then you can take those off, and then you apply the electrodes and put them on right here. Okay, that's the only little tricky part, I think, for this lab. After that, you can close preview. Use Command Q will get rid of that preview screen. And if you've loaded the software properly, you should have 2 panels, muscle wave and stimulus pulse. This will show you the stimulus side of the equation. This will show you the response side of the equation. At the top of your panel here is you have the control panel. The one thing you are going to manipulate in the control panel is amps. Okay, amps is the amount of electrons that the pulse will send when it stimulates your arm. What you're going to do is you're going to start with 0 and you're going to titrate until you get a maximal response. All right. So what you'll do is you'll set it for 0. You hit apply, and then you'll do a test run. You'll hit record over here. You'll notice that the time from start to finish is only about 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second. Okay. So these things can go very, very rapidly. You'll want to do a test. Look to see if you see a response. Then you can up the amperage. Like here, I'm going to go to 1. I hit apply, and then I'm ready to record again. I'll get a response, and then so forth and so forth. Make sure that you are saving the data as you go. The LabScribe software is designed to save your runs, okay, so as you go. So make sure that you're saving that data. Once you have achieved an optimal response, you won't see a larger response once you ump the amperage. So when you find that optimal response, you can use that voltage for the rest of your experiments, and also make sure that you do a screen capture of that. You're going to include that screen capture as part of your data this week. Part 2, you're going to test 3 or 4 times on each of those different lengths. You're going to be looking and you're going to calculate the time difference. So once you have your data, once you have your titration and your screen capture, you've got your volts set, then you're ready to do your experiments for estimating neuronal velocity. We have our everything set up, and then you've got the patient relaxed. All you do, hit record. And this is going to take about 1/10 of a second to record something. Now, since I don't have the wires hooked up here, it's showing a relatively unusual pattern. That's okay, that's just how it works. What we're going to do is we're going to auto scale once you have your data here, and it'll auto scale everything for you. Okay, auto scale here and then auto scale down below. And we have our stimulation here, and we have our theoretical whatever this response is. That's probably alternating current in the room or something along those lines. When you do it, you'll probably have a much more. You'll be able to see. You'll see what you'll look at the example data. You should be good to go. And so here we have the setup for the long distance one, where we have the electrodes above the elbow, and we have the detection electrodes down there on the hand. These ones don't move. We use the small ones. If you need to clip these a little bit with some scissors just to narrow them a little bit, that's fine. Same thing up here. They just need to be somewhat close together just above the elbow there. The other set that you'll put on will be down here at the wrist level, and I have these over here, and we haven't put them on the patient because what we want to do is we want to take the wires, put them on the electrodes first before we apply them. It's just easier that way. The snap, it gets a little uncomfortable when you try to snap those electrodes on when they're already stuck to the patient. But here's the setup here. We have the 2 cords, the 2 electrode cords for stimulation going to above the elbow, and those are red and black, and they're hooked together. And then we have this electrocardiogram pack where we have the red, green, and black going down to the hand there. And you have photos in your lab for that. Other than that, you have some sandpaper, you got the electrodes, and you should have some alcohol prep swabs. And that's it for the materials for this lab. And here we have some data that we have collected from our patient over here. You can see that what I have done is I have done this up to 4 amps, okay? And so we have the stimulation down here, and I'm going to auto scale that real quick. So now we have this, and it's a square wave stimulation. It sets some voltage and then goes away. And then up above we have the response. And what we'll do is we will use our data analysis. I've already got the T2 minus T1 in here. You slide the slider to the start of the signal. And then for the muscle one, you're going to want to go with the other one basically to the bottom of the deflection like that. So you have the first line at the start of the stimulation and the second line at the deflection, which is the muscular response. Okay? And then you'll collect the time over here. Very young patient, very, very fast response time. But what we want to do is we want to measure. You're going to do this 3 or 4 times once you've titrated the maximal response. Then you're going to take 2 or 3 or 4 measurements and average those and get your time of response average for the short, and in this is the long distance and also the short distance. The last thing is that once you're done, you can throw those electrodes away. Make sure you've saved all your data and have your screen capture. You can exit the software. Make sure that you have unplugged your unit from the USB port and turned off your IXTA. All right, thank you for your time, and I will talk to you soon.